All right, Richie. Not too often do I like to have you on back to back like wrestlers, but you happen to be, it's happenstance and timing, but you have Tiffany back to back. So I bring that up for being the question being Jade versus Tiffany more interesting than Jade versus Stephanie Vaquer a month ago.
Uh, Storyline wise, yes. Match wise, probably not. Just
Okay.
because with Tiffany and Stephanie, it's like this is a combination we haven't seen before. Tiffany hasn't really been pushed to that degree in terms of like story or character changes. Like she's probably the most protected person on the roster this year alone, only losing one time. And now that she had that loss to Stephanie, now storyline wise, this is interesting because not only is she coming into this match with that big time loss, but you also have Jade Cargill recently turning heel. So the interesting part of this match between the two is just how both these women progress. And I'm not sure if SummerSlam or the triple threat match that was necessarily the case for both. But now it's like it seems like there's a direction finally.
Yeah, and you bring up the SummerSlam and the triple threat from SmackDown about a month or so ago, being the two matches before this match. Some stretches within those matches showed decent chemistry in ring. SummerSlam was extremely rehearsed. It was an accelerated showcase for each woman, and it was kind of painted to show Jade just not being able to get it, and Tiffany catching her and sneaking by in a 7-minute match, which is a little, oh, okay, that's it. But it was kind of like really smart to do it that way, especially at the pace and the layout that they had. But it didn't feel organic; it felt rehearsed, right? And then the Stratton match with Jade and Nia on SmackDown, you also referred to, was kind of wild, right? Jade got the busted eye. It had good drama towards the end, but it was like sloppy and botchy and out of place and clunky, right? So it's just like, all right, was it rehearsed? Because Nia's in there. It's like, all right, well, Nia's going to grab the heat. You're going to have these two big stars float around Nia, and the whole in-ring action is probably going to float around Nia, with these two having their spots in between, saving it for that final match and playing into the first SummerSlam match. But the fucking eye injury that Jade got out of it was kind of the story coming out of it, not Tiffany squeaking out. And then we see that bleed into the angle before SmackDown last night, where Jade returned, kind of saved Tiffany from whatever, and then bam, smacked her right in the fucking grill. And we're on to Saturday night's main event. And that bitch, quote unquote, Jade Cargill, is back. Do you think this is the right direction for Jade?
I think so, just because when Jade first signed to WWE, like WWE wanted to get the that one up because that was the first like homegrown AEW star that went over to WWE. So smart play is to make her like a larger than life superstar and just kind of portray her as the Wonder Woman, so to speak. And they did very well with her team with Bianca. They did all they could do with it. And then, like, let's see how Jade does on her own as a babyface. And working heel in AEW and working babyface in WWE, two completely different styles. And I feel like she was only gaining traction because she was a dominant heel in the time where AEW's women's division was in its infancy. So I really think that this is a good change because it's a style that I think is more familiar to Jade. And I really think that Tiffany needed somebody to kind of like climb up out of just like that babyface hole other than Nia, because Tiffany and Nia have had great matches before, but I feel like they've had like two or three different blow-offs of that entire feud overall just because they didn't have anything for her. So it's more of a necessary evil, no pun intended, for both of them.
Nia's always been around this aura. That's kind of low key the negative perception on Tiffany, that she kind of keeps fluttering back to Nia in a way. I think that has a lot to do with like the pushback or whatever, the lack of depth for Tiffany to orbit around. Even though Nia has been pretty decent in the role, and the matches have been very good, especially considering the two, right? So interesting. All right, so I like the stripped down look from Jade. I thought that was alarming in a good way. My radar went off when I saw her come out. I was like, "Ooh, that's a Saturday night's main event match." Now, the reason I bring up the rehearsal of the first match and the kind of showcase of the two, will we get a Jade Cargill like showcase that she had in AEW? Because I also brought up that bitch character again, Is there any way that Tiffany is vulnerable enough for Jade just to like catch her, and we get an even shorter match than we had at SummerSlam? And it's in a way kind of protects Tiffany to kind of go out there and get caught by this new presented Jade. Is that good character work for both girls coming out of it?
Yeah, I think so. After SmackDown, WWE posted on social media that Tiffany suffered a knee injury, but Tiffany decided to gut it through. And usually when WWE announces these type of injuries, it's more for storyline rather than real. So Tiffany has an out if she were to lose this match already. Jade already did damage to the knee, and then, we have a new women's champion. WWE does like to do this kind of thing, even though you're freshly turned and it's like, oh, I'll put the championship on them. We'll just wait a little bit. We'll have them like lose like this one, and then the next one they'll win or lose. And I really think this is a make or break moment to see how Jade Cargill is going to be presented moving forward when it comes to WWE, because I know WWE had expectations like we're pushing her hard right out the gate. Like she's going to be main event or burst. And right now it's the time to put up or shut up. You got to like either try the experiment with Jade. I know a lot of people with Tiffany and Tiffany's title reign, people have been overall like kind of mixed on it. Performance wise, I think she's been fine, but just storylines, there's just nothing really going there. Like you had like the undefeated streak, and story wise, it just kind of reminds me of like, yeah, you're getting victories, but it kind of reminds me of Austin Theory's US Championship run the second time around, where it's like, yeah, he's beating all these incredible names, like Edge, Cena, Sheamus.
And they're good matches though with
Good
Theory.
matches, but it's like you can't remember like many things that he's done like in a storyline sense. People only remember the uh John Cena like promo, and that's what Austin Theory came out of, and people thought he went down a notch. And with Tiffany, people are probably going to remember the the botches, even though it's like those are few and far between, but they're more memorable than anything that we've seen from this reign thus far, at least from a talking and discussion standpoint.
Yeah, I'm curious where Tiffany kind of falls out coming out of this match, with the assumption that she's taken the L. You have the storyline knee that you mentioned too as well. I think that plays into a factor of the story of the match and the outcome. Does that play into character work coming out of it as well? Now, do you feel that Tiffany should be presented as a heel or a babyface coming out of this? And do you feel that her bubbly blonde character needs to evolve coming out of this as well?
Yeah, she needs to evolve. I'm not sure if a heel turn is necessarily needed. Like Tiffany is the better heel when it comes to her being a heel or babyface. But the thing is, on the SmackDown Women's roster, you need to build other baby faces in order for that to happen. If Tiffany were to turn heel, and then you had Jaden and Tiffany and Nia all on the heel side, hypothetically, uh, who do you have on the babyface side? You have Charlotte, you have Nia. You could potentially turn Chelsea babyface if you really wanted to, but it's all like SmackDown's women's division kind of needs a fresh up a little bit from, you know, call some people up from NXT, maybe like a Jordan Grace, maybe a if she was healthier, Sol Ruka, because she still has that knee injury going on. But SmackDown does need a refresh, and I think that's one of the biggest cons this year of WWE is that SmackDown's women's division just felt like ice cold,
Yeah.
coming out of WrestleMania. And we're still at a point where it's like we're going to the well one too many times too often with Tiffany and Nia, and now you had Jay in there. And it's just like very unfortunate timing because you had the Jade, you had the Naomi thing, then Naomi cashes in, goes to Raw, and then that's leaving another person on SmackDown going to Raw. And now it feels like there's a massive gap in SmackDown that hasn't been filled yet. And it's not any of the talent's fault. It's just how they're structured right now.
Yeah. All right. So let's just assume that Tiffany Stratton's title reign comes to an end at Saturday night's main event. It would be 10 months or so.
Mhm.
I think it's been a good run. I think, like we mentioned before, it's tough to kind of keep going back to the well with a lot of the same women with the lack of depth. But perception wise, I still think she's over. I still think she's a big star. And I still think that her future is bright. And I wouldn't consider it a failure. I would just consider it a little bit of a disappointment of a first run in that way. I still think there's some highs, some good matches, some decent character work, and some okay promos. But I think there's just like the potential should have been more, if that kind of makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Without and you've seen this with many first time title reigns too. Like somebody wins the world championship for the first time, and usually their first run isn't great for whatever reason, just because it's like they're unfamiliar to the spot, or it's just like the character booking in general. Like Kurt's first reign as WWE champion, he didn't look the strongest. The Miz's first reign as WWE champion didn't look the strongest. With Tiffany, it's like she was strong, but she wasn't a big part of the show, so it didn't even happen. Is kind of like that kind of perception, because it kind of reminds me of a long version of Bayley's run when she was WWE Women's
Yeah,
Champion.
I felt like this was a little bit better though.
It was a little bit better just
She
because
was
like
more of
there
a
was a little bit
star
more
character, yeah.
focus on Tiffany.
Yeah.
Tiffany was actually the center focus of the brand, as opposed to Bayley, who was just kind of there. Unfortunately, again, not her fault. It's the story that's kind of surrounding her. And with
Love it.
Tiffany, it's like any kind of movie that goes over like 2 hours. It's like, how you could shorten it a bit by like 40 minutes and still have a coherent story. It's kind of like this title reign, where it's like it would have done its job if it was the 6-month mark, but we're at the 10-month mark now. So it's really up to see how Tiffany comes out of this. You know what I mean? Where it's just like the title reign, that's one thing. It's how you're presented after that championship reign is a completely different story, to see if you're still at that level or you're going back to the level you were before you won the title.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, we're at the end. I'm actually going Jade. I pretty much hinted it all show, and I'm going to go Jade, Richie. And how about you?
I'm going Jade as well, just because it's like a perfect storm, no pun intended. You have the heel turn, you have the knee injury that WWE is promoting,
Mm.
and again, it goes one or two ways. It's like take the risk on Jade. You put all this time and this equity on this Jade character. She might not be the performer, but I have a feeling that they might do something similar to her presentation at AEW. Get her a manager, get her a faction, so that protects her. And being a heel, you just have the other people kind of like do her bidding for her. And then when the big matchup comes, then you have Jade in that matchup. And with Bianca's timetable still kind of helter skelter right now, I think that's probably the direction that most people want to see coming out of here. Like you either have Jaden and Bianca, or even Tiffany and Bianca as well. But Jade is probably the best choice right now, just with the certain pieces that they set up right now: the injury, the heel turn. And if you want to refresh the SmackDown women's roster in the quickest way possible, you have a new champion, and that creates a new landscape.
It's kind of crazy. You can look at the three announced matches right now, the 2 world titles on the men's side, and this one. You're like, you could be a new champ on each one.
Mm-hmm.
Really. So that's interesting for a kind of dead Saturday night's main event. The Saturday night's main event before the Saturday night's main event, or the Saturday night's main event before Survivor Series. It could be very newsworthy, and it's kind of like a dead crowd too. There's not a lot of tickets sold right now in comparison to other WWE main events. The Saturday night's main event, well, the last one was in July, so it's like this one's distant. It's just weird timing, but it could be good timing for WWE story wise, leading them into a pretty newsworthy fall.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty optimistic despite the kind of dullness of WWE.
It's definitely like a rebrand for Saturday Night's Main Event, since this is just going to be airing on Peacock alone. That means the commercials are probably going to be few and far between.
Hopefully, especially mid-match. Would drive me nuts. Continue.
Yeah. So not saying this match needs to worry about commercials.
No.
I think it might be a relatively short affair, but it's just like this is going to be a new like kind of territory of the Saturday Night's Main Event, and usually they like to have, what was it, like 5 matches or something, like 5 segments at least.
Yeah,
So it's like, again, you're trying to get all these matches time, and you have 3 world title matches. So obviously they're trying to get more people, like eyes on this Saturday night's main event in particular. And it seems like one of those make or break kind of nights, where it's like, are like how Saturday night's main event's going to be from now on, or is it just going to be kind of like a super show kind of feel? Time will tell.
All right, Richie. It was good, buddy. See you on the next one, pal.
Yeah, see ya.